Mythic Plus was introduced into World of Warcraft in Legion, and honestly, it's time to tweak it a bit. I mean, I love it and there's a lot to like about Mythic Plus right now, but there are some very apparent problems that I think most of you guys already know about. So Blizzard, if you're listening, here's some suggestions to make it a lot better. Right, so Mythic Plus came out in Legion on July 19th, 2016 to be precise. And Raider.io was introduced later on in January of 2017. We're now in 2024, 8 years after the inception of it all, and we still have a huge problem with the lack of accountability in pugs. We've all been there. You're deep into a run, one wipe happens, someone bails, now your key's ruined and there's nothing you can do about it. The lack of consequences for leaving mid-run really hurts the pugging experience. So here's what I propose. I mean, it's pretty simple and I'm honestly not sure why it isn't in the game already. Introduce a Mythic Plus deserter debuff. Like, it should be in the game already. I'm not sure why it's taken this long to add it. Just like in PvP, players who leave mid-dungeon without finishing get hit with a debuff that prevents them from joining another Mythic Plus for a certain amount of time. This encourages players to stick it out even when things get tough. But to keep things fair, it could have exceptions, like if the entire group agrees to disband, or if the run goes far beyond the expectations of the completion time, sure, then it makes sense to jump ship and not get penalized, right? Like, I feel like that's a given, but there should be some sort of penalty for abandoning your team, whether it's a pug or not. Like, there should be something in place. On top of that, I'd even double down and go a little tougher by adding badges to players in matchmaking, both for positive and negative situations. So what do I mean? So let's say a player is a repeat offender for leaving groups. Let's start there. So I suggest there be a deserter badge the player keeps for the duration of the week to let other players know that this player is known to abandon parties. After, let's say, I don't know, 2 times you get a badge, but maybe I'm being too tough. I'll leave it up to you, Blizzard, when to get this badge, because I know disconnects happen. But for the players that stick it out, don't abandon and complete runs, whether it's timed or if it's not timed. That part doesn't really matter, but there should be logs that show participation in the game. That way you can't just AFK. For those players, as long as you're in the game participating in the dungeon, you should get a team player badge. That way you're getting a positive badge and you're also getting a negative badge based on your performance and participation. So with deserters potentially getting penalized, what about those of us who have to sit there with a sorry, wasted key? You know what I mean? The key downgrading system, the system that punishes key holders when a run goes bad, even if it isn't our fault. Losing a key level because someone bailed or because of a rough run feels unfair, especially when it was out of your control. Like, I just don't get that part. There has to be parameters and maybe a better algorithm for this, so let's fix that. Introduce a key preservation token system. Players could earn key preservation tokens through weekly objectives or from the Great Vault. These tokens would allow a player to prevent their keys from being downgraded if a run fails, but they'd only be usable under specific conditions, like if a group disbands early or if a player leaves. Additionally, if the run fails to time but still completes, the token would allow the key holder to retry the same key level instead of it dropping, giving them another chance without facing a downgrade. This makes the system a little more forgiving, especially when things go wrong outside the key holder's control. Now, I know that Mythic Plus is supposed to be a prestigiously difficult dungeon system, but some of these things are just unwarranted. So let's fix those little things and I think it'll be just a lot better. Which brings me to my next point, the Raider.io issue. I'd love to see this as a built-in feature, but I know World of Warcraft has a partnership going on here. Either way, would love to see it native, if not just to get my score refreshed faster. And don't get me wrong, for the most part, it's pretty great, but it can be improved. While your performance is tracked by dungeon, the problem is that group leaders still tend to fixate on your overall score. That can make it hard for players to get into groups if their overall score is lower, even if they've mastered specific dungeons. So there needs to be more value in the scoring system. Like I mentioned earlier with the badges, I'd like to see a dungeon affix experience badge or something that represents this. Each player would earn badges based on their success with specific affix combinations in particular dungeons. For example, if you've completed the Dawnbreaker during Tyrannical Weeks multiple times, you'd earn a badge showing your mastery of that affix in that dungeon. This lets group leaders see that you're skilled at handling tough combinations even if your overall score isn't as high. The dungeon affix badges would be displayed next to your Mythic Plus score, giving group leaders more context. This way, someone who excels at specific dungeons with tough affixes can still get recognized rather than being overlooked for only having an average overall score. Now, I realize that this primarily impacts newer Mythic Plus players, but it still should be a thing. Like, I don't feel like this should be completely dismissed just because it doesn't impact higher level Mythic Plus players. It just doesn't make sense. I'd also love to see World of Warcraft adopt one feature from Final Fantasy XIV. I think it's a pretty good system, so hear me out before you already say no to it. But that is an endorsement system. A new introduced endorsement system where players can be endorsed for specific strengths after a run, such as like great attempts, good communication, or handled mechanics well. Those are just a few examples. These endorsements would appear on their Raider.io profile, or if decide to make it natively as well, that'd be even better. Group leaders can see qualitative feedback on what makes a player valuable beyond their score. A player who consistently gets endorsed for handling mechanics or contributing to a group strategy could get picked over someone with a slightly higher score but no endorsements, if that makes any sense. This helps players who may not have the highest score but consistently performs well or brings something extra to the group. It gives players a better chance to showcase strengths that don't reflect in just raw numbers. All right, I'm gonna shift gears here for just a second because I want to pitch an idea that would help out casual players, but also veteran players, and that is a mentorship mode. This system would pair experienced players with casual players or newer players to run Mythic Plus together. Veterans who opt into mentorship mode would guide casual players through dungeons, explaining mechanics, affixes, and general strategies. The casuals get the benefit of learning from the pros, while the veterans earn rewards like extra valor, loot rolls, or exclusive cosmetics for taking the time to help out. Hell, I could even see a badass prestigious mount reward for completing X amount of mentorship mode dungeons. Speaking back to that endorsement system, mentors could offer post-run feedback, giving casual players personalized tips on how to improve. For veterans, a mentorship rating system would make it more worth their time, adding prestige to those who consistently help new players. This creates a win-win scenario. The casuals will get help, the veterans will feel like they're not getting their time wasted, and we'll probably see less runs for gold, although they'll never fully go away because they're always going to be there, but we'll see less. Hey, better than nothing. And to my final point, let's talk about a system that could bridge the gap between casual and veteran players: an affix triggered boon system. Here's how it works. If your group deals with an affix exceptionally well, like clearing explosive orbs quickly, managing quaking with no overlap, or controlling bolstering effectively, you get a temporary boon. These boons might increase your movement speed for 20 seconds, boost your DPS for 30 seconds, or provide a small healing buff. The catch? You only earn these boons by performing well under pressure. This keeps the affix difficulty the same, but offers a reward for strong execution, encouraging players to master affixes without altering or downscaling their effects. It could be that these boons are only available in keys 2 through 10, creating a sort of Mythic Plus learning system for higher level keys. Just a thought. For casual players, this provides an incentive to improve without making the content easier. Even if they aren't timing the dungeon perfectly, they can still benefit from handling affixes correctly and receive rewards that help them throughout the rest of the dungeon. For veterans, it adds another layer of depth and rewards groups for playing cleanly. Timing affixes perfectly could allow them to push for faster clears or overcome tougher pulls. So those are my thoughts on how we can improve Mythic Plus for everyone. Adding a deserter debuff, adding a key preservation system, adding an affix boon system, and a mentorship and endorsement mode. I think these would really help, but what do you guys think? Or what are some things that you guys think would also improve Mythic Plus that maybe I didn't mention here in this video? Leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.